Generating images is fun, but understanding them at scale, pulling out structured insights from photos, screenshots, and scans and diagrams, it's where the real business value lives. Azure Content Understanding is purpose-built for exactly that. Hi, I'm Rob Fultrod, a lead technical trainer at Microsoft, and in this session we'll cover analyzing images with content understanding. We'll get to know what content understanding is and how it works, then walk through analyzing images with it. Let's get started. Up to this point, we've been using large language models to generate video, to generate images, to even analyze them. But sometimes we need something that has been purpose-built for that tool. And this is Azure Content Understanding. Its job is to be able to look at whether it be video or audio or documents, or in this case, images, to understand what's in those images and to give us a text representation so that we could use it elsewhere. I had a scenario where we had a huge inventory just full of objects, and we had photos of all of those items, and we needed to enter mass data into the system. And so we could take an image and then look at the image, figure out what was in there and put that in, or we could run them through Content Understanding, get a bunch of tags, get a bunch of titles, and as the image came up, everything was pre-populated, and all you did was kind of validate a couple of the things and move forward. Right? It took something that really understood those objects. And while a large language model could have done it, it would have been far more expensive and slower than using something like Azure Content Understanding. So the tool can look at video, it can look at audio, documents and forms. What we're going to be concentrating on here is its ability to look at images. Here we see a quick example, an image on the side. Right? And maybe not the clearest of images either, right? We see a lot of blur going on in that image. And the analysis from Content Understanding, the image shows a busy underground train station platform with a train passing by at high speed. Again, I'm not going to read the whole thing to you. You can all read. But this is the analysis summary of that document. So what does it take to do this? Well, a couple of things are going to change up. Number one, we're used to going into Foundry's portal and working in the playground for all of our model work. In this case, we have another tool. And you can see if we were to kind of dig into the underlying URL here, this is the Content Understanding Studio at contentunderstanding.ai.azure.com. A purpose-built tool that just does one thing, and that's content understanding. So you can use this as a mechanism to, much like the playground, to test in advance. I've got a handful of images, I want to run them through the system and make sure we're on the right track. Once we've used the Content Understanding portal, then we can switch over to code, now that we know we're there, and write up the example. And so here we're seeing what that code would look like. Again, many times we are using this client-based tool, right? That we're going to configure that with an endpoint. We configure that with our credential. Here we see the credentials again, twofold. You've seen this, if you've seen me say this once, you've seen me say it 20 times at this point, that either an API key or a Entra ID identity can be used to authenticate to Content Understanding. And then once we have the client itself, then a little bit of Python here just to read an image to get the bytes of that image there. And then we're going to supply an analyzer. So what we'll do is a little pre-work ahead of time to build an analyzer, and then we will pass to that analyzer the data that we're looking for. When we get the results back, what we're really looking at is a large JSON document. And that JSON document is going to have things like, here's the description, or here are the eligible tags that might be used in that situation. So we're going to use this a couple of times. This first time, we're just going to use Content Understanding for images. So we're going to pop into the Content Understanding portal, We'll do a couple examples right there, and then we will jump into trying the same thing with code. Before we get too far into this, the first thing that we're going to have to do is we are going to need to build a storage account. So the content understanding system, when you go to build an analyzer, the data for that analyzer and for the project needs to go somewhere to persist. And so the first thing we're going to have to build here is a storage account. So our Foundry project that we've been working with here is demo 5661. So I will name this demo 5661 storage. That should get me pretty darn close. We'll just grab the cheap storage here because we don't need it for much going forward. I'll review and create. That seems to be looking good. So build the storage account. It'll only take just a second here. All right, all set. So we are good here. We're not going to have to come back to this location, but we are going to go take a look at content understanding. All right, so pop into content understanding here. We will use the content understanding portion. We will take a look at document intelligence a little bit later, but content understanding first. We'll go and explore. And under the configuration here is where we will tie this to our project. So we're going to add a resource here. We will grab our demo 5661. That's the correct resource. And what it's asking us right here is that this particular resource is going to use a series of large language models, depending upon task, GPT 4.1, GPT 4.1 mini, and GPT 5.2, along with embeddings. Right now, most of those I do not have. So a little checkbox there says, hey, we're going to auto deploy those if that's all right. It is. Thank you for asking. We will choose next. So those are the models. Great. Go ahead and save. Now we're good to go, and we'll make that our default anytime we go to build anything. That will be just fine. All right. So from there, we can go and practice. So we'll swing up here to build, and we will create a brand new project. In this case here, our project is going to extract content and fields with a schema that we set up. We can give this project a name. The default is fine for what I need right now. Go ahead and create. Oh, make sure we've got settings here pointing to the right project. Let's go back to our project here. Storage account. There we go. Storage account is sitting inside of our demo resources. Demo, perfect. It'll create a container. That's excellent. Now we can go ahead and create. All right, so the first thing it wants us to do here is to upload a sample file of some type so that it knows what kind of project we're going to be working with. So here we will just drag on an image. There we go. And so we've uploaded here a Lion JPEG, so it's going to correctly identify that, hey, looks like you are doing some sort of image analysis. And starting from scratch is great. So we'll go ahead and save. And when we go to do this, what we're going to tell it is these are the things that we are going to want to extract from this image. So we'll build a schema of things that we want the large language model to be looking at and extracting for us. So the first thing that we will throw in there is we will throw in description. And that's going to be a description of the image and the data type that we're going to want here. You can see we've got a collection of data types that are available to us for it to then populate. In this case, a string is just fine. So that's field number one. We will also ask for some tags. I'll just say tags of the image. And to be tags here, we could do string and it would give us a comma delimited list here, but it just makes more sense to make that a list of strings. Go ahead and save. Right, so there's our first schema for our project here, and we will run the analyzer. Right, and so here we've got a male lion sitting in tall grass, background features, great, and then 8 tags were created here. Those all look reasonable. Okay, so we are in pretty good shape. So we've got something that works. We could elaborate on the fields and the schema that we want, but in this case, that is all just fine. We'll go ahead and, in essence, kind of save or compile this beneath the covers. So we'll use the build analyzer. It's going to ask for a name here. Call this demo 1 for lack of a better name. And build. That went well, so we will jump the analyzer there. So we can see here our schema. We can then, if we look at the code sample here, look at what that looks like. I'm using this as a little bit of a cheat so that I can just grab the endpoint that I'm going to want. So I'm just copying that right there. You can see what our underlying endpoint is, the name of our resource there. All right, so let's try this now in code. We're going to swing into Visual Studio Code here. We just snagged that endpoint, so I'm going to paste that endpoint in there. We called this demo 1 was the name of the analyzer that we saved and compiled there. Let's save that. Let's take a look at the code base here. Again, we've seen a lot of this before, so most of this isn't new. We are grabbing our default credential in here and we are building a client. This time, the client is the Content Understanding client that we find inside of the Azure AI Content Understanding library. So we've built ourselves the Content Understanding model in here. We've got ourselves 3 images over here. And so we will ask the user, hey, which of those images do you want to process? And we will snag the name, read those bytes up. And then the interesting part for us is client begin analyze. We pass in the name of the analyzer. In our case, demo 1 was the name of the analyzer and the bytes. And then we will get back our result. From the result, we will just go spill the results to the screen. So we will look through the content. Specifically, we will grab the description field that you saw me build and the tags field that you saw me build. We will print the description directly. And for the tags, because that was an array, we will loop through each one of the tags inside of that field collection. That should work for us. We'll give this a run here. Go Python and analyze images. Give it a whirl. Let's, so that you see what's happening, there is image number 1 right there. We'll give that a shot. And feels like a decent description. A giraffe standing in a grassy savanna landscape under a partly cloudy sky. Seems reasonable. And our tags will just go a little bit further. We'll go to image number 2. There we go. Image number 2. And a little bit quicker this time, once everything has been loaded up. So we do have a large elephant standing still in the savanna landscape. All right, that's pretty cool. We've got more to do with content understanding, but first let's put a pin in the. But first, let's wrap this one up, and then we will take a look at some other examples. All right, let's see what y'all remember. First, what kind of AI solution is Azure Content Understanding designed to help you build? I'll let you read. Right. Analyzers that extract information from documents, images, as we've seen so far, video, and audio files. What graphical tool should you use to create Azure Content Understanding project? And that's going to be the Content Understanding Studio. That's that portal, different from what we've seen inside of Foundry's portal. So we're really just starting right now with content understanding. We're going to take a look in a moment a little bit deeper at some of the other understandings that are possible. But right now, we've done really one of the most common, which are just images. So it has the capability of doing images and docs and audio and video. We'll see that coming up. There are some pre-built analyzers in there and our ability to do custom if we need. When we go to run through and build the schema, we can give it just a couple of samples to train it up pretty quick. And then we can use the API to call in and bring back the JSON document that is that understanding. In this session, we turned raw images into structured insight. We understood what content understanding is and analyzed images with it. Thank you for participating in Develop AI Apps and Agents on Azure course, and I hope you enjoyed learning about content understanding. Stay sharp, stay in touch. There are many ways to continue your learning journey. I invite you to search for your next favorite topic on Microsoft Learn at aka.ms/learn.